The Velthury Academy had trained warriors for 600 years. It had never trained a human before. Jack Sullivan arrived on the transport shuttle with 43 other cadets, lizard-skinned draconians, four-armed Kalathi, and the towering stone-gray Vorith who needed reinforced bunks just to sleep. Jack was the only one who sweated in the cold, the only one who shivered in the heat, the only one whose body couldn't decide what it wanted. Sergeant Morix watched the new batch file off the shuttle ramp with the expression of a predator evaluating prey. He was Velthury, 7 feet of dense muscle wrapped in black and gold ceremonial armor, his 4 eyes scanning each cadet with clinical detachment. He had broken 17 cadets in the last intake cycle, sent them home early, sent 2 of them to the medical bay. He was proud of that number. When his gaze landed on Jack Sullivan, something flickered in those 4 amber eyes. Not cruelty, something worse. Amusement. A human, Morix said, his translator rendering the words in flat, perfect standard. He stepped down from the platform and walked the length of the cadet line until he stood directly in front of Jack. The size difference was considerable. Morix loomed. Jack looked up without flinching. I have read about your species. Fragile bones. Single cardiovascular pump. Primitive sensory range. He tilted his massive head. Why are you here, human? Same reason as everyone else, Sergeant, Jack said. To become a soldier. Morix smiled. That was the most dangerous thing about him. That smile. Then you will receive no special treatment. No consideration for your biological limitations. No mercy. He turned and walked back to the platform. None of you will receive mercy. That is the first lesson of this academy. Write it on the inside of your skulls. Jack said nothing. He filed into the barracks with the others. Found his bunk. Unpacked his kit in exactly the regulation order. In the bunk above him, a draconian cadet named Varys leaned over the edge and looked down with golden slit pupil eyes. You should request reassignment, Varys said. Not unkindly. Morix has ended careers before they began. He will not go easy on you. I know, Jack said. You are not afraid? Jack thought about it honestly. I'm terrified, he said. But being terrified and quitting are 2 different things. Varys stared at him for a long moment, then retreated back to his own bunk without another word. The first week was designed to break something. It broke 3 Kalathi, 1 Vorith cadet who developed stress fractures in his granite-dense femur, and a draconian who simply stopped getting up one morning and stared at the ceiling until a medic came. Jack Sullivan ran every kilometer, climbed every wall, fired every round, and reported to every formation on time. He bled from his hands by day 3. The obstacle course had steel edges, and the Velthury designers hadn't accounted for human palm skin. He wrapped his hands at night with strips torn from his undershirt and showed up the next morning without mentioning it. Morix noticed. He noticed everything. By the second week, the sergeant had developed a pattern. Every exercise, every drill, he placed Jack at the front. Not to honor him, to expose him. To let every other cadet see the human struggle. To manufacture the moment when the weakest link snapped. The moment never came. During the 3rd week, they reached the combat assessment sequence, a solo evaluation where each cadet faced the Academy's training constructs in a sealed arena. No weapons, no assistance. The constructs were calibrated to each species' known physical parameters. For Jack, Morix calibrated them manually. He set the difficulty 20% above what any human physiological profile suggested was survivable without serious injury. He reviewed the numbers twice. Then he approved them. Emma Richardson found out. She was the Academy's only other human, an analyst attached to the faculty, not a cadet, a specialist in xenobiological training methodology who had been embedded at Velthury Academy for 8 months. She had copper-red hair, the kind of quiet eyes that missed nothing, and a security clearance that let her access the calibration logs when she noticed Jack's arena parameters looked wrong. She pulled the numbers, cross-referenced them with standard protocols, sat very still at her desk for approximately 90 seconds. Then she walked to Sergeant Morix's office and knocked. He told her to enter. He didn't stand, a deliberate choice. Velthury used posture as a weapon. Emma put the printed calibration report on his desk. These parameters will injure Cadet Sullivan, she said. Her voice was calm. That was important. Potentially seriously. Morix glanced at the report. Training is rigorous. This isn't rigorous. This is targeted. She tapped the numbers. His profile versus the calibration, this was set by hand, not by the automated system. I make adjustments for cadets as I see fit, not 20% beyond survivability thresholds. Emma looked at him directly. She was a full meter shorter than him. She did not appear to notice. I'm formally requesting you reset the parameters to standard protocol before tomorrow's assessment. Morix leaned back in his chair. That smile again. And if I decline? Then I file a report with the Academy Oversight Board tonight, and we explain to them together why a senior instructor deliberately miscalibrated an assessment to injure a cadet. She paused. I've already saved a draft. The room was quiet for a long time. Morix reset the parameters. He said nothing else. Emma walked out. She found Jack doing push-ups in the equipment bay, 300, she counted, because he'd missed a morning PT session due to a communications briefing and was making up the reps on his own time. Assessment parameters have been corrected, she said. He stopped at 287. Looked up. You went to Morix. Someone had to. I didn't ask anyone to. I know. She crouched down to his level. Jack, there's a difference between being tough and being set up to fail. Morix was doing the second thing. You deserve an actual test, not a rigged one. He held her gaze for a moment. Then he got back down and finished his push-ups. The combat assessment came. Standard parameters. Honest difficulty. Brutal, legitimate, fair. Jack Sullivan completed it in 41 minutes. The median completion time for his intake class was 58 minutes. The Vorith cadet, twice Jack's body weight, for times his natural armor, took 63. Morix reviewed the results in his office. Alone, he pulled up the sensor data from the arena and watched the recording 3 times. He watched Jack take a hit from a construct that would have dropped most cadets and keep moving. He watched him use a wall corner to redirect the construct's momentum against itself, a technique not in any Velthary manual, improvised in real time under pressure. He watched him reach the final phase bleeding from a cut above his eye and moving like none of it mattered. On the third viewing, Morix stopped the recording at the moment Jack stood over the disabled final construct, chest heaving, blood on his face, and looked up at the observation sensors. Not in defiance. Not performing anything. Just reporting in. Still here. Still standing. Morix closed the file. The next morning, he assembled the intake class for formation. He walked the line the way he always did, 4 eyes moving, posture radiating authority, the kind of presence that made cadets want to stand straighter just to avoid his notice. He stopped in front of Jack. Sullivan. Sergeant. Your assessment time was 41 minutes. He said it to the whole line, not just to Jack. This is the fastest completion recorded in this intake cycle. It is also the 4th fastest in this academy's last decade. He paused. You will note I said 4th, not 1st. There is no room for arrogance. Jack said nothing. Neither did anyone else. Morix moved on. But as he passed, something had shifted, not in his posture, not in his voice. Something subtler. The kind of shift that happens when a predator decides something is no longer prey. That evening, Emma found Jack at the edge of the training grounds, looking out over the valley the academy sat above. The twin moons of Velthary Prime were rising. The light made everything look silver and ancient. Morix announced your time publicly, she said. I heard. He didn't have to do that. No, Jack agreed. He didn't. They stood in silence for a while. The night insects of Velthary Prime made sounds nothing like Earth's. High, metallic, rhythmic, like distant machinery. Why does it matter so much to you? Emma asked, proving yourself here. To them. Jack thought about the right words for a moment. Because someone has to go first, he finally said. Every species that's respected out here, somebody was the first one who showed up and refused to quit. I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm just trying to not be the reason the next human gets written off before they start. Emma was quiet. That's either very noble or very stubborn, she said. Probably both, he said. She almost smiled. Probably. The moons climbed higher. Somewhere across the valley, a night patrol was running drills. You could hear the cadence count carrying faintly on the cold wind, steady and unbroken. Jack listened to it for a while. Then he went back inside to prepare his kit for tomorrow. He always had more work to do.